Hello, Dr. Cinema here. Now that Musical May is over, time to get talking about some certain topics I've been wanting talking about for the past few weeks. And they relate to Deadpool 2 and Deadpool in general. So, this first video, I don't think there are really any spoilers in this video, so this is spoiler free in case you haven't seen Deadpool 2. So, Deadpool 2 was a great movie, but a surprising little thing kind of was hidden a little bit in the film. For those of you who have seen the film, you might be familiar with the term Essex House, the little establishment where they first find Russell, the kid who can create fire at. The Essex House in the comics was set up by a supervillain named Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister in the X-Men comics is a very big deal. In the comics, he was always obsessed with evolution, believing that mutants were the next step in human evolution. In fact, in the comics, he caused Apocalypse to be awakened, and Apocalypse sort of gave Mr. Sinister mutant powers, such as telepathy, yeah, the body switching powers, and a whole host of other powers. So, to have the Essex House and Deadpool 2 is an interesting little tidbit of world building for the X-Men universe. But this is not the first time they've done it. 2 years ago, 2016, X-Men Apocalypse. I think it's safe to say it was no one's favorite X-Men film, but if you stayed around for the post-credit scene, there was something there. In the post-credit scene, we revisit the, I'm assuming, abandoned Weapon X program where Wolverine broke out of, since it took place in the 80s. Some men in busy suits, they grab a sample of DNA, and when they closed the briefcase, it showed Essex on it, as in the Essex Corporation, a corporation owned by Mr. Sinister. And then Logan came in 2017. Logan was a beautiful masterpiece. However, there was some talk apparently about maybe including Mr. Sinister in some capacity. However, they ultimately decided to not include a supervillain like Mr. Sinister, or really any super villain, because that would go against the kind of story that James Mangold wanted to tell. However, people behind the film did sort of say that it was implied that the people who stole Wolverine's leftover DNA from back in the film X-Men Apocalypse in the 80s were responsible for helping clone X-23 lore, as well as X-24, the younger, more violent version of Logan that appeared in the Logan film, which was set in 2029. This is interesting. They're building up a supervillain in the similar style to how the MCU has built up Thanos. However, with Thanos, we've seen him a few times before Infinity War. Post-credit scene of Avengers, post-credit scenes of Age of Ultron, a brief speaking cameo in Guardians of the Galaxy. He was mentioned again in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So he was built up, but we knew they were building him up. With the X-Men films, they are sort of building Mr. Sinister up, but not really naming him by name, which is interesting. What's even more interesting about these X-Men films is that we don't know what the future of this franchise really is. I mean, we're getting an X-Force movie, and chances are we'll probably get a Deadpool 3, despite what Ryan Reynolds thinks might happen with the franchise. And we're getting X-Men Dark Phoenix and New Mutants in 2019. But remember, New Mutants and Dark Phoenix were supposed to come out this year. But they pushed New Mutants back twice, and they more recently pushed back Dark Phoenix to 2019. However, despite these pushbacks, they moved Deadpool 2 up a couple weeks, And they've announced a solo film for Multiple Man starring James Franco, and a film for Kitty Pryde directed by Tim Miller, the director of the first Deadpool film. So, are we getting Mr. Sinister? What's going on? I mean, with the whole Disney deal, that's probably going to happen despite a counterbid from Comcast. We have no idea what the future of these X-Men films is going to be, how they're going to integrate the X-Men into the MCU when it eventually does happen, whether it's a, a semi-reboot or a full reboot. We really don't know what's going on, but depending on when this deal actually happens, there's a chance we could still get Mr. Sinister, and we could probably get one of the best villains from any Marvel movie, because in the comics, Mr. Sinister was definitely one of the more interesting and intriguing supervillains, especially when it came to the X-Men. So, I thought this was just very nice to talk about, and while it is murky, I am a little excited to see what they eventually do with the X-Men films, depending on certain situations. But anyways, Deadpool 2, beautiful masterpiece. Check it out. This is Dr. Cinema. Like, comment, subscribe, share. See y'all next time.